Welcome to this explainer. Today we are taking electrical troubleshooting and elevating it. We're moving it from a standard blue-collar chore right up to a high-level investigative science. Think about it. When a massive industrial plant suddenly goes dark, every single minute of downtime costs thousands of dollars. The stakes are absolutely massive here. We're talking severe equipment damage, huge production losses, fire hazards, and obviously potential injury to personnel. So we're going to break down the exact systematic process of identifying, isolating, and correcting faults in these complex electrical systems. We are basically going to teach you how to be the lead detective of the factory floor. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with diagnosis instead of guesswork, run through common types of electrical faults, uncover the golden troubleshooting principle, walk through the 7 steps to find faults, dive into some real-world case studies, and then finish up with thinking like a professional. Let's get into it. Section 1, diagnosis instead of guesswork. You see, a true professional doesn't just swap out expensive components randomly and cross their fingers. They follow a highly logical diagnostic process. It's about outsmarting the problem, not just overpowering it. Hooking into that detective mindset really starts with asking 4 critical questions before you even pick up a tool. What is wrong? Where's the fault? Why did it occur? And how can we safely restore the equipment? If you're just guessing, well, you aren't troubleshooting. You're just playing a very expensive lottery. The workflow sequence has to be strict. You observe the symptom, inspect, measure, isolate, find the root cause, repair, test, and finally return it to service. Skipping even one step, that means you're missing a vital clue. Section 2. Common types of electrical faults. Every good detective needs to know their usual suspects, right? And these 7 culprits are the primary villains you're going to face. An open circuit? That might just be a broken cable or a blown fuse. Super annoying, but usually pretty straightforward. But then you've got short circuits, where the current takes a highly dangerous unintended path, like a phase-to-phase short. Those can cause catastrophic damage. We also see earth faults, where live conductors touch grounded equipment, maybe because of moisture or a damaged cable, and that creates an immediate, severe safety risk. Overloads happen when a circuit draws way more current than it was designed for, usually because a pump is physically jammed or the mechanical load is just too high. And watch out for phase loss. When a massive 3-phase motor loses one phase, say L3 just drops out, it might just sit there humming, failing to start, all while pulling this excessive, damaging current on the other 2 phases. Phase imbalance is kind of similar. It's this insidious issue that just slowly cooks your motors over time. Finally, never ever underestimate a simple loose connection. It is the silent killer. Loose connections create resistance creates heat destroys insulation, and boom, you've got a full-blown failure. Moving on to Section 3, the golden troubleshooting principle. So how do we actually tackle all these issues without getting completely overwhelmed by the sheer scale of a giant industrial plant? Well, the absolute crucial point is this golden rule right here. Divide the system into sections. Seriously, if a 500 horsepower motor isn't running, do not immediately start unbolting that massive casing. You have to slice that intimidating, complex circuit into bite-sized, manageable pieces. You just logically trace the electrical path. Start at the power supply, move down to the protection devices, check the contactor, the overload relay, the control circuit, the motor itself, and then the mechanical load. You're literally just trying to figure out exactly where the electrical signal stops. This one simple shift in thinking makes fault finding incredibly fast and stops you from going down the wrong rabbit hole. Section 4. 7 steps to find faults. To actually divide and conquer the system like we just talked about, we need a solid standard operating procedure. And our investigation always starts with these first 3 steps. Step 1, understand the symptom. Go talk to the operator. Ask them, what exactly happened? Was there an alarm? Did the motor smell like burning ozone before it tripped? The symptom is literally your very first clue. Step 2 is strictly enforcing safety. You have to apply your lockout/tagout or LOTO procedures. Verify the absence of voltage with proper test equipment. Listen, this isn't just corporate policy. It is literally life or death. Never assume a circuit is dead just because some breaker is flipped off. And step 3 is the visual inspection. Before you even grab your multimeter, just look around. Are there burn marks, melted insulation? Is a breaker obviously tripped? A lot of the time you can spot the fault immediately just by opening your eyes and scanning the scene. Once we know we're safe, we actively test by working our way down the chain in steps 4 through 7. First, check the power supply for things like phase loss or undervoltage. Then, check your protection devices like breakers or fuses. And here's a massive takeaway for your workflow. A repeatedly tripped breaker is a symptom. It is not a root cause, so stop resetting it. Next, trace the control circuit. Is control voltage even present? Is the start command actually coming through from the PLC? Finally, if all of that is perfectly healthy, you test the motor itself. Check the winding resistance and the insulation. And hey, don't forget the mechanical side. A seized pump will absolutely cause a perfectly healthy motor to draw massive current and trip the overload. Now, taking the vital signs of our equipment requires some essential troubleshooting instruments, and each one is specifically matched to a different job. You've got your digital multimeter for your basic voltage and continuity checks, and your clamp meter to safely measure current while a circuit is live. The insulation resistance tester, which a lot of folks just call a megger, is vital for checking if motor's insulation has deteriorated, usually from unseen moisture or dirt getting inside the housing. Phase rotation meters are there to ensure your motors actually spin the right way when you turn them on. And I love thermal cameras. They're absolutely fantastic for spotting loose connections. They literally let you see a failure weeks before it actually stops production by highlighting that heat buildup. A portable oscilloscope can even help you dive into complex waveform analysis if you need to. Just always ensure your tools have the correct safety CAT rating for the installation you're working on. Section 5, Real-World Troubleshooting Case Studies. All right, let's put all this theory into practice and solve a case where a pump motor suddenly just refuses to start. We're going to use a chronological timeline of logic to trace the electrical flow. Think of this like a ticking clock investigation. Minute 1, is the breaker on? Yes, keep going. Minute 2, is control power available? Yes, move on. Minute 3, is the stop and start circuit healthy? Yes. Minute 4, is the contactor coil energized? Yes. Minute 5, is three-phase voltage actually reaching the motor? No. Boom. By asking these simple binary yes or no questions, you march systematically down the line and you isolate the fault in minutes rather than hours. If you reach minute 5 and the voltage is missing, you stop right there. You now know for an absolute fact the problem is completely isolated to the cables, the terminals, the contacts, or the protection devices right before the motor. Let's look at another case. This time, a motor trips during operation. We're going to use the 5 why analysis to drill down from a simple physical symptom all the way to a systemic failure. So, the terminal overheated. Why? Well, because the connection resistance was high. Why? Because the terminal connection was loose. Okay, why was it loose? Because it was not properly tightened during previous maintenance. And why exactly wasn't it tightened? Because there was no documented torque requirement in the maintenance procedure. Do you see how that works? The root cause isn't just a loose wire. It's a massive weakness in the administrative maintenance documentation. Finding the actual root cause ensures this never happens to any other motor in the entire plant ever again. Section 6. Thinking like a professional. This mindset shift, going from just fixing the immediate break to finding the systemic root cause, that is exactly what elevates you from a standard technician to a professional maintenance engineer.
A professional detective adheres strictly to core do's while completely avoiding the don'ts. Always follow the electrical single-line diagrams to map the system. Always measure before you replace components just to prove they're actually faulty. Perform root cause analysis like those 5 whys and verify your repair before returning it to service. Conversely, absolutely do not just randomly replace parts hoping one magically fixes the issue. Never repeatedly reset a tripped breaker hoping the fault somehow cleared itself, and never ever bypass an interlock without a highly authorized specific procedure. Bypassing safety systems just because you're frustrated, that is exactly how major industrial accidents happen.
Underpinning all of this testing and logic is the fundamental key formula of industrial power. When calculating three-phase power loads, you're constantly going to use the square root of 3, which is roughly 1.732. This constant accounts for the phase offset in a three-phase alternating current system. Power in a three-phase system is roughly the square root of 3 times the voltage times the current times the power factor. Knowing these baseline math relationships helps you immediately identify when a current reading or voltage drop is mathematically abnormal for a specific mechanical load. And the ultimate foundational rule governing our entire diagnostic process is Ohm's law. Voltage equals current multiplied by resistance. I mean, this is inescapable physics. Whether it's a loose connection spiking the resistance and dropping the voltage, like we saw in our 5Y case study, or an earth fault causing a massive surge in current because resistance dropped to 0, Ohm's law is the driving force behind every single symptom you will ever investigate on the factory floor. At the end of the day, the most important skill in electrical troubleshooting isn't knowing every single component by heart. It's learning how to think systematically. Remember our core mantra for today. Go from symptom to evidence, from measurement to isolation, and from root cause to corrective action.
The stakes are incredibly high, and these systems are wildly complex. So, the next time the plant goes dark and the alarms are blaring, how will you approach the fault? Will you be a frantic parts changer just guessing at a solution, or will you be the calm, systematic detective who actually solves the case?
Electrical fault finding starts with safe isolation, systematic testing, accurate diagnosis, and correcting the root cause.